woman will naturally default to a manipulative strategy to find herself out of a situation, to slide herself out of a situation. It comes more naturally to her because of the way she's emotionally inclined and the way that she knows that she can use her emotions to achieve advantages. Men, on the other hand, we're so opposite. We're not emotionally driven or inclined. And so I find it very beastly and immensely wicked when men use manipulative strategies, such as ones that come to mind. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. If you leave me, I'll never be able to live again. Like any man that says anything like that is a wicked demon because it's not true. He's lying, he's lying, he's lying. And he knows he's lying. That's what it is. Like with the women, they can believe their deception, and that's another topic that we've touched on. With a woman, she can believe the deception. She can make herself believe that she's a victim. But when men do it, they know they're not, but they're just trying to get the woman to bow to them or to cater to them or to not leave them. And so I personally find it extremely wicked whenever I hear situations where men are like, when I hear women saying, "Oh, I'm scared to leave him because he's gonna kill himself. He's a liar, and he's evil and he's wicked and he's a control freak, um, because he wants to control the woman by guilt and things of that nature." Yes, women do that too. Again, when women do it, I find it more a weakness of women. It's something that they have to learn to deal with. But with men, it's completely satanic, because they don't need to behave that way whatsoever. So that's when they're absolutely trying to control someone. Men that behave that way are the same ones that will kill their wives. They're the same ones that will beat their wives. Same ones that will tie their wives up and lock them in a cupboard. Those same men that always pretend that I'm gonna die if you leave me. So yeah, that's just some thoughts on manipulation, and you can go ahead, Kaylee.
I was just thinking about gay people because when I think about how obviously it used to be criminalised, didn't it? And at first they were like, "Oh, we only want to get married and da da da," but now look how far they're like going with it. They're kind of like pretending, and at first like, "Oh, we only want to get married," and now they're trying to force it on kids and like indoctrination and stuff like that. It always comes like subtly, but there's always like that big agenda behind it. If we can just push with one thing, then it will just lead to another. So that came to my mind. Um, but yeah, another thought did come to mind, like not in a horrible way, but Muslims, because they come over here and at first they're going, "Oh, it's only about peace," and the Quran is all about peace and stuff. But really, when you get to see the result, what's just happened with the Hamas and Israel, they were exposing themselves in the streets where they were like celebrating like people's killings and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely great examples, and so it just shows us that when we allow one thing into the door expands wider and wider and wider. And so the gay community pretended that all they wanted was equal respect, which is bad enough, but actually they wanted to dominate, no different to feminism. Oh, we just want to be treated equally, or matter of fact, we just want men to not, you walk over us or abuse us. And it sounds cute, and it's like, yeah, that's fair. And let's change the whole law for these feminists. Like, men are no longer allowed to raise their voice at women, and now, just 10 years later, it's no, we want equal pay. No, we want to be treated the same as men. No, we want to be better than men. It it always escalates to being better. Now the gay community believe they're superior to everyone. Now the feminist women think they're superior to men. And so it always starts with the little, oh, we're just victims and we just want a little bit of attention. And you feed that attention. It's just like a spoiled brat of a child. You feed a little bit of their attention or seeking, and then before you know it, they want to dominate the whole house. And so that's why we need strong men in society, because we need strong men in society. Welcome, Nicole. We need strong men in society because women will emotionally cave. If there's no men, women can emotionally cave to their children, to the community. It's actually after women started voting when all of these laws started to come into place. And now you've got the feminine balance of the population saying, oh, we feel sorry for gays. Historically, men don't feel sorry for people. That's why they were putting gay people in prison for throughout history. I posted on Facebook today. Until 1967, homosexuality was criminalized since the beginning of time. In 1967, which is only just 40, 50 years ago, they just said, it's not fair that we keep killing gay people, so let's take it from being a crime. It still wasn't acceptable, but let's not do death penalty anymore and let's not put them in prison. And now it's legal. I've got this posted on my Facebook. It's legal from 1967 for two men to sleep together as long as they're over 21 and they're both consenting, then we accept it. And it starts there, and it's like, oh yeah, great, gay people ain't getting killed no more. And then now look, they're taking over your whole house, taking over every shopping center, shopping supermarket that you go to, just because of one little law that passed. You see that there? So it's those small little compromises that we allow into mainstream society that create the problems that we have today. I addressed a lot of these things on Facebook today. As a matter of fact, I said a post something along the lines of, why is LGBT prevalent? Why is mainstream sodomites like Little Nas X allowed to exist? Why is there men pretending to be women in the workplace? And the answer is silent men who are afraid to speak up and bend over for everything. So that's the facts. That's the reality. I'm on Facebook speaking truth. How many men press like? Zilch. How many women press like? A few. Men, zilch. Don't want to be associated with Chukub for saying these things. I don't want to be associated. So that's fine. So one voice isn't enough to change society, even though they agree. But I'm not going to associate with him because I don't want to lose my followers. And so we have ourselves in this situation, a situation whereby um, society is caving, collapsing. I called a lot of men out today with my posts. Like, imagine being a man, calling yourself a man, and calling another man a woman to keep your job. And my school teacher from 1996 or 7 messaged on my post. And when I saw the comment, I was like, could this be an argument? And I opened it and he said, unimaginable, can't believe it. Um, so true, kind of thing. So I was like, God bless you, sir. So, and he's a teacher. He was my first. He's a very inspirational teacher. He's got all of our school friends from 90s on his Facebook, and yeah, he was a black teacher, and in the 90s, which is a big deal already, and he was really cool and really encouraging as a teacher. But yeah, he agreed with me, which is great, which means he's not sold out in his career after these 30 years. But yeah, I was just saying that imagine being a man and calling a man a woman to keep your job. I need them to feel triggered. I need them to be drawn out because it's all good fun and games. Men are on Facebook talking about, oh, did you watch the match? Who are yeah, Arsenal, Arsenal. And yeah, the world's burning down outside and you're singing Arsenal on Facebook and you're singing about games and entertainment. But the reality is you're not making a difference by anything that you say publicly. And so it's really a mess. It's an absolute mess, an absolute mess. And it's even more messy that I've seen they are sleeping. And it's so messy because I've been out here for a long time and I've seen from before Andrew Tate and up until today, men are still the same. They don't want to associate with you. They want to be your friend, but in secret. They want to pretend in secret and message you in secret, but they don't want to associate with you in public, even though you're saying things that are facts across the board. They don't want to. And it's a good thing still because the more that has happened to me over the years, the less I've been obligated to anyone. So I was thinking about that today. I was posting. I was thinking I have no obligation to please anyone, and that's why I can say whatever I want to say, what God leads me to say, because there's absolutely no person in this world I don't believe that I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't say that. I can't say that because I'm compromising for this person. I can't. There's nobody. There's nobody. So. There's nobody that I can't say that for, and I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. If I wasn't orderly, I could go far. But thank God for the restraining of God. Because if there is no one that is restraining you, then you could. Some people have that freedom, and then they take it too far and become disrespectful. Now I haven't gone that far, and I won't. But I am bold in what I say, and plain and direct with what I say. But I'm also very careful not to cross the line of disrespectful. I'm blunt, but I don't cross the line of being disrespectful. So it's just the freedom of speech. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad when I just see the condition of men today. And again, especially that they want to be friends in secret and on Messenger all the time. It's always been like this over the years. People want to message me on Messenger, but you want to act like you don't know me when I'm saying truthful things on Facebook. And so it is. People only celebrate you when they see other people celebrating you, and then they want to follow you. But when they're not sure if people like you or not, like that's probably how my Facebook looks. Probably looks like other men would be like, do people like what he's saying or not? But the answer is, if they didn't like it, they wouldn't be on my page still after all these years that I didn't add. But it's very foolish, I'll call them, because they'll look and probably think, because I'm not getting likes, people don't respect it, but they don't know people are in my inbox every day. They don't know that part because God's not showing them that part. So they're missing out and thinking that it's what I'm saying is hated, but not realizing people are actually respecting it. They just don't want to press like. So yeah, I'm just ranting a few things on my chest really of some thoughts I had today. Praise the Lord. So yeah, Kaylee, you can go ahead.
When you were speaking and saying how it's more like the women liking it, what came to mind was, do you remember when Jesus was going to the cross? It was like it was the women that were around him, but was it like his mom and Mary, and I think it was the other Mary Magdalene, and I know that John was there, but it's like it was mainly the women that was around Jesus, like when he was going to the cross. But also, I was just thinking about the man you posted in the group, and he was saying life is it BS? I don't even really know what that means, but it was like he made that video so people could feel like sorry for him. So it was kind of like a manipulation. I don't know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because that day when I came across that video, I think the next day I was showing my Ethiopian carer these videos because there's a lot of things that are still culture shocks for her. So there's things that she still cannot get her head around. Like, why would a man be depressed at 30? And then she'll be like, send them to Ethiopia, they'll get married in a day. Like, because she can't comprehend the idea that you've got 30-year-olds in England and 36-year-olds that are depressed because they can't get a woman. And then there's like millions of women in Ethiopia that are desperate for a husband that doesn't need to look like Idris Elba or Mike Tyson. Um, and so I was showing her these videos because just to show her the reality, this is sadly the reality of men in the West. This guy in the video talking about, man, I just sit at home every day looking at the wall. I'm thinking, bro, I sit at home looking at the ceiling, but even I don't even do that all day because even I've got people around me in the situation I'm in. You're fit as a guy. Matter of fact, you got 200,000 followers on YouTube, and you're saying how depressed you are and that you've given up on life and you can't do it anymore, alluding to suicide because that's what it means. And the interesting thing about that particular guy, though, is I did want to go through his videos because when I have a discernment about someone, I want to confirm it. So I went through some of his videos, and in some of his other videos, he's very arrogant. Oh my gosh. So in this video where he's saying nobody wants to be my friend, when you're weird, no one likes you, when you talk different, no one likes you, when you walk different, no one likes you. And then in another video, he's saying some people are so weird. When I'm out in public, they're coming too close to me. He was saying this in the video. It's just that I can't post everything in the group because I understand the context of the group, and so it's not just for alternative subjects. That's why I'd rather send a voice message. However, in the other clips, he's basically saying, he's giving examples of when you're in public and some guys are getting too close to you and you're like, stay away from me, man. He's like, I'm not a girl. I'm not a girl. Get away from me. So in one video, you're crying and want to kill yourself because you ain't got friends. And in another video, you're saying people stand too close to you and it's weird. No wonder you don't have friends. You see what I'm saying? And I think I said that when I posted the clip in the group. No wonder you don't have friends. Because the reality is, a lot of the time, I'm not gonna say every single time, but a lot of the time people that don't have friends because they're weird. Period. You're weird. Like they don't have friends because you're weird. You don't have friends because you make people feel uncomfortable. That's a lot of the time that's the case. Because the real thing that should push people away from us is Christ, not ourselves. It's supposed to be our convictions that doesn't line up. It's not supposed to be, oh, we're creepy or, unsociable or whatever the case may be. So yeah, in his case, it's that. And then I saw a few other, quite a number of other videos. I'm talking about big, muscly white guys that look like Love Island guys and look like Cristiano Ronaldo and look like David Beckham, and they're all sitting there talking about I live in my mom's house and I've never had a girlfriend and I'm lonely and nobody wants to be my friend. And I'm just like, wow, this is really devastating. But I was showing my Kara and she was just shocked, basically, to say the least, because this does not happen in Africa. This doesn't happen in most other countries in the world. And let me just bring it back to reality. A lot of these men feel this way because of women. It's usually that. It's not really about friends. It's because no women give them attention, which is also very sad. But when men don't get attention from women, there's something about that that really depletes them of any need to exist. You see, when men are in the gym every day, who is it for? It's for women. When Andrew Tate's getting millions every day, who is it for? It's for women. So men do want to impress women, and when they realize no matter what they do, women are not impressed, they can give up on life, and this is again very sad. So yeah, that guy was definitely an example of saying one thing, but it's your actions that are actually leading you to this suicide. One last example I remember, and I'm sure I've shared this in the group, but there was a guy on my Facebook that was supposedly about to jump off of a building, and I called him in that moment. I'd seen him on Facebook a few times that week talking about that's it, I'm gonna kill myself, I'm gonna kill myself. And some of these things are real. I've seen videos, actual videos, where people actually say I'm gonna kill myself and then blow their brains out. I've seen those videos. Like I've seen them kill themselves on live video. Um, and so I know it's real. It's a real thing as well. And I also know some people are bluffing, but this particular black guy was just crying on Facebook about no one loves me, no one cares about me, no one wants me, and I'm like, okay, you're wearing Jordans though, and you got a nice, expensive phone, but he was saying about money, you don't have money, and on all the rest of it. Anyway, when I was watching his live, and there was other people watching his live, and nobody, and I realized all these people are watching you, waiting for you to die so they can go and have a great time tonight. Like they're literally watching but not saying anything. So I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna call him because these people are literally sitting there, just five viewers, five, six viewers, not saying a word, just waiting to see if he would jump. Do you know how disgusting this world is that we currently live in? It's really disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And so I called him, and then he's like, yeah. So I just had a conversation with him. My conversation was a typical Chuka conversation. I wasn't there to say, "Oh my God, she shouldn't jump." I was there saying, "Bro, you need to fix up because you see, if you jump off that building, you're gonna end up in a worse place than you are now." And that was the way I approached him. And then he was like, "Well, nobody cares about me, and I've reached out to the church, and nobody supports me, and all this." And I was like, "Bro, just chill out with all of that stuff and fix that." He was standing at the top of the building. He was looking over the building, and I was speaking to him. I wasn't feeling sorry for him, but I was just telling him, "You're gonna go to hell if you do that. So I think you should reconsider your actions." And then basically, I ended up having a conversation with him. You see, it's funny because I think if it was somebody else, they'll probably take some glory for this moment. There's some big testimony. When I think about it, you could say he didn't kill himself because of that conversation, but I've never even looked at it that way. I just see that I spoke to him, he calmed down, he came down, and then he was like, okay, and then we spoke for a few days, and then that was that. Um, I just was just trying to realign his thoughts because I'm like, bro, you're talking about you ain't got money, you're wearing Jordans, you got expensive phones, and it doesn't make sense. And then he was just moaning. It's like he just wanted someone to talk to. That's what it was. He wanted someone to hear his situation. So yeah, I don't know what happened to him today, but I know that he had calmed down. And then after that, I saw him like taking family pictures on Facebook and stuff. So surely he's okay. But yeah, it's not always that whole sympathy party we have to play. Sometimes you need to kick somebody in the backside so that they don't jump. So Katie, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question because obviously you were saying about your Ethiopian, is it your Ethiopian or is it your Eritrean Cara? I was just wondering if it's the culture shock differences. to why men over here can't get like a wife or like a partner or whatever, and then in their country they're more likely to get married and stuff. And I was just wondering, is it because of the way that we're brought up? So, for example, we're told to, oh, you must study, you must do this to get to a certain position. There, you can get a wife and stuff like that. As in their country, they would. I think that would be one of the first things for a woman is to be like raised in a way as if like you must be married. That's your security. That is your um, role is to be a wife kind of thing in life. I don't know if that's another reason why to men in the West are struggling to get a wife because women are raised also is to um how can I put it raised to like families in like the 30s and they have to get a career and stuff like this or don't settle for less. You have to get somebody that's ticks this, that and the other. And so they are kind of like struggling to get a woman.
Absolutely, Kelly. We're living in a bunch of deception, really. And it's even taken me over the last 4 or 5 years to really start to see the Western Babylonian system and the culture that we've been raised in. So a lot of what you said plays into it, and to more structure some of those arguments, it's that, as you said, in Ethiopia, and it was my Ethiopian Carol, but it's pretty much the same anyway on East Africa. Um, yes, as you said, their priority, even as soon as they enter 18 years old, when they enter 18, it's like you need to be thinking about marriage. You need to be thinking about marriage. So even my Eritrean Carol was sharing with me the other day that her niece that she went over to see that I posted in the group before, that was street evangelizing. When my Eritrean Carol's mum, who is the grandma to the niece, when they all went to their country, they went to a European country to visit their sister, to visit her sister. The grandma's first opportunity to speak to the daughter was like, we need to think about marriage now. And my Eritrean Carol, because they've been here for a while, so even when they've lived here for a while, they even get surprised by it, but then they're reminded of their culture. She's like, and she's just 19, and the grandma is saying, you need to be thinking about marriage. We need to be thinking about marriage. So just imagine that, and that's great, amazing, praise the Lord. Over here, we need to be thinking about abortion. We need to be thinking about contraception. We need to be thinking about get your career first, as you said. So that's one factor, but there's multiple layers. There's this factor, right? And as you said, to get your career until you're 30. Okay, cool. Then the men also, they're very limited because the men who are 30 odd, they're like, oh yeah, I have to marry a woman who's 30. So it limits their options. I'm going to start with that one. A man has to marry a woman in their 30s in the West. That's culturally normal, but it's not normal in any other country in the world. For example, my Eritrean was Kara was giving me an example the other day that when I believe her brother was getting married, the family rebuked the brother because he wanted to marry, he was 40 and he wanted to marry a 30-year-old. And they said, no, 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 she's too old. There's a 20-year-old that likes you and you need to marry her. So he was rebuked for wanting to marry a 30-year-old while being 40. So it's just to, yes, it is funny for us, and but it's just to show you an example of another reality. And they rebuked him for marrying, for wanting to marry, but he loved as a 30. That's who he wanted to be with. But they was like, no, it's not correct. It's not the right thing. And so you see, so what happens then? Imagine now the range. So that's a second paradigm. The range that a man has is many years, 20 years difference of women. Whereas in the West, it's like, oh no, I can only marry 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So there's a limitation right there. So that's two good reasons. The woman not being ready to 30, the man thinking he can only marry 2 years, limiting his scope. And that limited scope in England is very bad because the population here for women is very bad anyway. It's not a country like Brazil where you walk around and see multiple women. You see one woman a day. Every 10 men you see one woman or whatever the case may be. And it's not even a lot of young people in England as well because of contraception. The next generation is not as populated as every single other country in the world. So there's many reasons. There's a group, a social group now called Passport Bros, and they fly to different countries to find wives. They've given up completely on Western women. Um, and in some way, I don't blame them because that's the only thing they can see as a solution. They don't realize that there will be some good ones over here, but they probably don't think they're worthy of that. So they fly to other countries, to Indonesia, Thailand, Brazil, and they marry easily, and there's life happily ever after. So, but there are a few more examples. Oh yeah, and then another. I'll say one more, and I believe there are a few more. Another example, another reason for this deficit and men feeling this way is because men are ultimately afraid of women in the West, and I may have posted this recently also. In the West, we are raised, including myself, in a way that don't ever touch a woman, and don't ever raise your voice to a woman. And women have been oppressed for so many years. So, as is my son, you have to make sure you treat women specially. You have to pull the red carpet out for them. Now, this may all sound cute and wonderful, great. It sounds cute. The problem is when you fill this into a boy's mind as a child, which we all had, what happens as you grow up, you see women as this species where you have to be careful and tiptoe around everything you do towards them. You don't want to upset them. And so this, I believe, is one of the biggest reasons why men cannot find women because they're so afraid, they're terrified. What if I approach her and she's gonna, what do they think she's gonna do? Bite their head off. She's gonna destroy their ego. And so there's that. And so what happens, the men are raised insecure. They look like incels, like the guy who killed Donald Trump, and then they walk around looking like that, and then nobody's interested because I'm not putting them down because of the look. It's because of the look that they've brought upon themselves because of their awkwardness, because of their fear of women. So yes, and this is a good lesson for mothers. So for you, Kaylee, with your son, uh, to not teach your son, not allow your son to be brought into this narrative of having to be tiptoeing around women because it's not biblical. Men are to respect women, love them, cherish them, treat them like the weaker vessel. Absolutely. That means you'll never hit or smack or anything of that nature. However, the Bible never said you have to be careful around her because there's a particular passage of scripture that says, show no pity for this particular woman. So it's a good lesson for Ezekiel, as or for you even, as you're raising him, not to be timid towards women. That's one of the biggest issues in the UK right now, and the West even. And I'm saying it because I've seen these passport bros. These are big, muscly, so-called handsome guys. I'll call it that because I know this is the look that girls go for. They got the whole celebrity look. And they're saying that when they're in America, nobody looks at them. These big, muscly, 6 foot guys looking like basketball players, they're saying every day they go out in the grocery store and not even one woman even gives them any attention. And they're just, when they approach a woman, she's like, get away from me. Uh, this just shows me women are not, it's not looks. It's never been about looks because they've got the look, but the women are not interested. And so, yeah, those, hopefully, those are some examples. And again, because you have a son, we need to bring back strong men, masculinity. So even for Ezekiel, we need to bring back men to be courageous. Like, let's take away that fear. I said one more thing, and I'll say this as my last point. I said something on Facebook recently, and I said a lot of single mothers are actually training their little boys to become little girls. And the reason they're doing this is because these single mothers are so traumatized by the wicked men that they've had in their past. What they've now done is they're beginning to indoctrinate their sons from their trauma, meaning they're now beginning to raise their sons like, I don't want him to be anything like these wicked, nasty men, or even anything like his father, who's wicked. So I'm going to make him the opposite. And when you do that, you're destroying your son. By trying to make your son opposite to the men you've experienced, you take everything away from him that is masculine. Because we have to understand, even the men that traumatized these women, they may have been wicked, but not everything about them was wrong. So what these girls are doing with their sons, they're taking away anytime their son exhibits a bit of aggression. Let's say Ezekiel, welcome down to let's say Ezekiel exhibits a bit of aggression. Yes, what these single mothers will do is they'll be like, oh no, don't behave like that. You can't act aggressive like this. And but there is a level of aggression that's necessary in men in order for him to be developed as a man. Without aggression, how would we have soldiers? Without aggression, how would we have police to take down bad guys? Without aggression, how would we have a government to stand against wickedness? So if we're beating the aggression out of our little boy sons, then we wonder why they grow up like little women, scared to approach women and pandering to women. I hope it makes sense. And if it makes sense, then someone like add on to what I'm saying. So in summary, um, with the factors I've mentioned, the first one being women not being ready till they're 30. The second one being men thinking they can only marry within this scope. The third one being that men are absolutely timid of women because they're raised in a generation that is so anti-patriarchy because of so-called oppression from men. Now we've gone to the other extreme that, oh, I'm gonna make my boy son cry. How many times have we heard that over the years? I'm gonna let my son cry and not feel ashamed. He can cry if he wants to. That's single mother language. I want my son to cry and act like a woman because he needs to be emotionally intelligent, and that's not a man. Men don't have to behave that way. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to have a father to say, stop crying. Yes, it's good. It's not you should just cry and let all your feelings out all the time. No, we have to learn to control those feelings. To know them, acknowledge them, but control them. So yeah, feel free to if you want to respond to that at all, or anyone.
It kind of just reminded me of something actually the other day, because Ezekiel got himself because he saves his money so that he can get himself like some toys. So he got himself this like laser. I think it's like laser blast or something. But you have these guns, and Eliza Ezekiel was playing it together in the house. And then at one point, it looked like he was getting frustrated because Eliza won him on the game. It's like laser tag, I think. It's that game that we played on holiday. But Eliza and Zeke was against each other. They both have guns, and they have this like patch that I don't know what you would call it over themselves, and you have to try and aim to it to shoot the person out. And obviously Ezekiel seemed like he was getting frustrated, and he was going really up to her, like shooting her after. And I kind of told him off for it. So I was just thinking, is that kind of like the um, would you say that would be the example of telling them off because and that's just being like natural as a boy to be a bit like in your face kind of thing. I can't explain it.
What was
Would
the
that be
example
wrong
that you
for me?
gave? What was the
With
example that he
that,
did again?
so they're both playing with Ezekiel's laser toy, and it's like got a gun, and I think it's called laser tag. And they wear like a patch in front of them, and they have to aim to each other and shoot to try and get each other out. And obviously, if one of them gets out, then the other person that shoots them out wins. And then Eliza won in this particular time, and I could see he was getting frustrated going up to Eliza, like he was about being a bit aggressive, like shooting towards her, and I told him off. I was thinking, would that be wrong to tell him off to do that? Because he's just being like a boy kind of thing, or
No, absolutely not. That wouldn't be wrong because that area is a lack of emotional discipline, and boys are to have emotional discipline. So, no, we have to make that distinction. And this is why, even when I posted this on Facebook and I said, your boys need to have a level of aggression, I put in brackets with context. It doesn't mean they go around beating everyone up and bullying people and being spoiled. So, no, if he is becoming aggressive because he's lost, that's not masculine. That is an emotional trait. We can call it a feminine trait because feminine emotional traits are on the feminine side. So, that needs to be corrected out of him. Yes. Uh, so that wouldn't be an example of him just exhibiting a level of natural. What would be an example of a level of natural masculinity in a child? Would be probably something like competitive nature, like I won, or something of that nature. Let's go again. Let's a bit of anticipation to win something or to be competitive. That's fine. That's okay. That there needs to be that level of some healthy level of competitive nature in a man. And I wouldn't say myself personally I have the most competitive nature because I couldn't care less half the time. I'm not in competition with anyone. However, I still acknowledge that there is a level of healthy competition that men need to be able to function in this world. Otherwise, everyone would just be laid back, just chilling about everything. So, um, yeah, there is the natural aggression would come out in passionate responses to certain things, but if it's a matter of losing or something that is not uh, something that we have to deal with in life, then yes, in that case, that needs to be corrected out of him, and you just need to find the appropriate method to draw that out of him. That being said, I would say to avoid gun games anyway. I would say if you can avoid gun games, just in general, because as much as it's toys and all the rest of it, when I was a kid, I used to play with guns too. I used to play with guns and I used to put them in my waist in the mirror and I used to simulate. I used to imitate gangster movies and put a gun in my waist, and it's quite dangerous in that regard. Now, laser tag may be a lot more innocent, but I would say anything that seems to be something that is not in alignment with our values, like shooting each other and things of that nature, then I would say to avoid games like that and stick to more games that it's not something that we wouldn't do in real life, because I don't believe your children will grow up wanting to carry guns whatsoever. But also shooting someone is can be very significant and symbolic in that regard. So that would be my extra 2 pence on top of as a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it makes sense because he is quite competitive. I know that's in Ezekiel as well. He's quite competitive. Um, but yeah, obviously he did that the other day, and I told him off for it. And I'm just trying to think with the shooting game. So what do you think? I should like remove it or kind of thing, and just like replace it with something else instead?
So what I would say is that as this is a good thing about being in Christ, we have a level of freedom. It's not a sin by itself that you've bought a laser tag game. It's a game. I've made a suggestion based on something that's just a thought that I could throw out. So I said avoid it, meaning it's not generally it wouldn't be advisable. I would say if we're going to choose a game, let's choose something that doesn't involve shooting, or something that looks realistic, like you're killing someone, or part of the game is shooting someone. So with that being said, you've already got the game, so it doesn't have to be any rational or irrational responses or any kind of worry, but more so for future reference. And if there's any conviction that comes out of this, then move on it absolutely. But for future reference, just consider, I would say consider this probably a man thing as well, but consider games that involve shooting and things of that nature because you know how the enemy is. We do things and it's innocent and they are kids, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I'm shooting my sister, she's shooting me, and that's the game. So it's just a thought to think about, but I don't believe it's anything you have to immediately act upon because it's already there and they're already playing with it. So just take it into consideration, and then however God leads you, just move from there.
Okay, thank you.
Not much different to gun games and things of that nature if they had a console, well, that'd probably be more extreme because in the gun games you're actually killing people. And I remember when my Ethiopian Keras kids came over to play my PlayStation, and I didn't want them to play any game that was actually killing. And if they did play it, it was like I'm actually telling them just drive, just don't try and kill people, just drive. um, because yeah, it's playing a game where you're killing, which we all did. But now we know better, so we have to do better. Praise God. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this convo for the next 45 minutes that we have left? So we've touched on manipulation and strategies of manipulation. Hopefully everyone's on the same page with how to spot manipulation and what to look out for, and also how not to be led off of manipulation. Because I think this could be a weakness for women also, even though women often are known to use manipulation, they can also have it used against them. So, oh my gosh, like my girlfriend told me that she really is in a situation and she needs me to come and save her life. And really, she doesn't. She's just looking for attention. So it's important. To be fair, one of the things you could do as women as well, having a leader or a male figure that you can call to say, should I respond to, how should I respond to this situation? Because definitely women can be led in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, I have to go and save my friend. I'm going to leave my children at home and drive across the country because she needs help. It's like, no, she's got a family there. You're not her savior, you know. So just understanding what manipulation looks like when somebody's using you, for example, when somebody's doing things not because they're actually suffering, but because they're just attention seeking. Knowing the difference, knowing the difference. Sometimes people are suffering. Sometimes they just want your validation and some stroke, and so there was that. We spoke about uh, why men in the West are depressed and miserable and single. And then lastly, we also spoke about masculinity in boys and women not raising little boys to be little women, little girls, because that's really the reason the world is the way it is today, because boys are like girls. And you see, men are in the gym today, as again, topics I've been speaking about on Facebook recently. Men are in the gym every day, getting big muscles. It's very feminine. It's ironic because it looks masculine with the muscles, but it's feminine because you're spending the whole day in the mirror taking pictures for Instagram of your muscles. Men in the olden days didn't do that. If they had muscles, it was naturally acquired because of the actual real life work they did, not just running on a treadmill, not lifting up fake weights. It was, if men were strong in those days, it was significant. They were strong because they had to be and they actually lived lives that required strength. Today, men are sleeping in the house, living at home, and lifting weights to look strong, but you're not actually strong. You want to look strong, but you don't have a backbone. You want to look strong, you don't have an opinion. You want to look strong, big muscles, and you're still being ruled over by your wife. So it's like that's where we are today. Men, it's really sad that men have the appearance of masculinity today, even more than ever. These men are bigger than David, they're bigger than Solomon, they're probably bigger than Goliath today. And still they even got a voice to speak up against evil. What is the worth of that? And then they wonder why with all these big muscles and money, they still can't get a woman to respect them. With all your big muscles and money, the women still don't respect you because women are not gonna respect you based on physical appearance. It's about your substance that you bring to the table. So that's yeah, masculinity is in a crisis. The church doesn't help. The church is very feminine today, which actually will lead me onto a note that I've written here. Unfortunately, there's no men in here today, but this would be very beneficial. I did post it in the group before, but what we have here in one of my notes is I've written here worship for a man, and this was inspired by the same priest that I wrote some notes from his particular pieces. Worship for a man is not emotional but meditative. We do not need to be manipulated but inspired. Our feelings do not need to be invoked, but our faith needs to be provoked. We are to be governed by principles, not passion. So if I could just break them down one by one, even though I haven't gone through this note, but I'm sure I'll be able to break it down. Worship for a man is not emotional but meditative. The context was that this man was speaking about how the reason he doesn't like Pentecostal churches, he's an Orthodox. It's funny, isn't it? Like he's an Orthodox, but he's speaking facts. He said the reason he doesn't like the Pentecostal churches or Protestant churches, I should say, is they're too emotionally engaging. He says one time he went to a Pentecostal church before he decided to give his life to Christ. And he said it was all cute. In other words, when he went there, the music was amazing, it was noisy, it was great, but he was like, it was great, but he couldn't get into the presence of God. It was just too much noise. He's like, he realized he needed solemnness, he needed peace, he needed a state of meditation. Now, that's very biblical. That's what men did in the Bible. That's what Isaac was doing under the tree when Rebecca was coming. Men are being deceived in churches today when they're running around with the emotions and crying to Hillsong. That doesn't change men's lives. What changes men's life is meditation. I can relate. I didn't think about this at the time, but when I was a baby Christian and then pastors used to preach the word, I would sit at the front of the church in tears, just rocking back and forward. I didn't even feel like I was in church. I felt like I was on a different planet and I was just engaged with every single word that was being spoken and it was feeding my spirit. I didn't need the hype. It was the word that affected me. So as men, the reason they're dying in church today and weak is because all you're getting is music and patties. music and patties, music and fun. And actually, what we need is to be taught. That's what men need. They need discipleship. That's what men need. They don't need women, on the other hand. Women can have a little bit of social and let's all get together and cry and pray and cry and talk. That's amazing. That's great. That's what women do. We're different. But when men do that, they become women. What men need is lessons about life, how to be a man, how to accept rejection, how to deal with rejection, how to be strong, how to not be afraid of a lion and a tiger and a bear. Yes, so worship for a man is not emotional, it's meditative. Yes, we do not need to be manipulated but inspired. Yes, we don't need music and strings that make you cry and make you want to give your life to Jesus. That's the wrong way because then the next day you'll go back to your old life. You need inspiration. What does that mean? Andrew Tate, he inspired half the generation of men. Why? Why did the world hate him? Because Andrew Tate had an inspiration. What was his inspiration? Bugattis and Rolexes. That's fine. His inspiration was worldly. It was inspiration nonetheless. Even Christians were following him. Why? Because he was showing you the demonstration of what it looks like to be a worldly man. Man is a man, but he was a worldly man. He's giving people this. He's not giving them emotional music to make you feel like you want to cry, like what they do in church, which is very embarrassing. Men in church are just crying and giving their life to Jesus. Andrew Tate, he's showing you get up and stop being lazy and get out and do something with your life. And that changed more of a generation than a lot of these churches have done in the last 50 years. And that's a shameful thing for me to say because he inspired. Men do not need to be manipulated by emotions. Inspired, yes. Our feelings do not need to be invoked, but our faith needs to be provoked. So what I would say about that is our feelings do not need we don't need to invoke men's feelings like, oh my gosh, you're a guy and God loves you. And I know you've been beaten down for so long, but God really loves you. Even though women were the first people to carry the gospel, you were still there. I had that in my old church. Even though women were the first preachers, you still have a place to play. You still have a place. You know how you know how degrading that is. Women were the first ministers, but you still have a place. That's what we hear today in church. Um, and actually, Megan Good, husband, the ex, Megan Good, in the new movie with Tyler Perry, her ex-husband, which was a pastor, he's got a clip that's circulating where they're kind of mocking him. But in his clip, he's saying the woman was the only one that was whole. Adam was broken, and the woman came out whole. Can I get an amen? Adam was broken, and we've told our women all these years that you need a man to be whole, but we didn't tell them the truth that it's actually the man that's broken. You see that? That's where we are. So we've beat down men, and that's what church does. It continually beats down men. It's very sad, very very sad. I praise the Lord for delivering me from the system of religion. So our feelings do not need to be invoked as men. Our faith needs to be provoked. My faith to get to where it is today was provoked. It wasn't someone stimulating my flesh. It wasn't someone stimulating my mind. It wasn't someone stimulating my feelings to make me feel like, oh my gosh, I should give my life to Jesus. Okay, so, and then lastly, we are to be governed by principles, not passion. Um, as men, we shouldn't be governed by, oh my gosh, I'm so angry. Oh my gosh, I just feeling passionate. I'm just gonna make a YouTube video today. Or guys, I just feel the presence of the Lord. Like we shouldn't. That's all women behavior, and it happens a lot today. Oh guys, I just got a word from the Lord. Oh my gosh, I'm in tears. Like no, men have to be balanced. We have to get them tears sorted, get the word ready, and come properly. We don't run out on emotions. That's how they end up getting killed by police. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Instead of controlling your emotions, men have to control their emotions. So it's funny, I'm talking about lessons for men. It's a room full of women, but nevertheless, it is the subject matter and it is beneficial on each side because even as women, you can help men to achieve this place. At the end of the day, you see, when men aren't stepping up, God will send women. I saw a YouTube minister recently, a woman. It's funny, I'm seeing women speaking more truth than men, and she said, I know some of you might not want to hear me speaking. She's like Colombian or South American and speaking facts and talking about men need to rise up. And she's like, I shouldn't really be here, But God told me that the men are not speaking, and so I have to speak. Yeah, makes sense to me. Absolutely. That's what's happened. Men aren't standing up, so of course someone has to go. God's going to use the woman. The woman wasn't inadequate. She's very adequate. It's just not her role. She's got other responsibilities. Women can preach just as much as men. They can teach. They can teach even better than men. Women have more faith than men today. The women that I've met over the last 7 years have more faith than any man I know. Period. But the problem is not the order. The order is that the men are supposed to do it because women are still emotional. So even with all their faith, they can switch in a moment. Whereas men, when they get it on to death. With women, they can get it and then they can switch. So, but yes, generally speaking, women are more inclined with God today. Men are more inclined with PlayStation 5. Yeah, it's very toxic, very sad. PlayStation 5 and gym. Big muscles just to go home and play games. It's very sad. It's very sad. To be fair, these kind of messages need to be on a broader scale. More people need to hear it, but all things in good time. This is a message for this entire generation. Big muscles and you're playing games. These are provoking words that men need to hear. It would provoke them to change. The things I'm saying on Facebook, if anyone wants to go and check out my page, are things that are provoking because that's what men need. They need to be offended by what I'm saying. So they'll be like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be this big man with big muscles and I still can't even approach a woman. So I say things deliberately to provoke them. Because with men, if you don't provoke them, they'll fall asleep. They don't even listen to you. But I know that when I speak, they're gonna listen because they're offended by what I say because it's offensive. So I'd rather be offensive and get their attention than to say Jesus loves you and he died for you. They're not going to listen to that. They need to hear something that touches them on a personal basis. So I'm going to yield the mic for a bit and I want to leave the room open for some space. And if anyone again has to share, wants to share, or wants to shift the conversation topic anywhere or ask any questions, or again, it's a fellowship setting. So if there's anything at all about any topic that anyone wants to ask or address or re-emphasize, please let's go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, yo, Leonte.
Hey, Unks. I didn't really get a response from the questions that I was asking you about, like Christians going to court and whatnot. So I just like wanted to know like your point of view of like the whole oath stuff and stuff like that.
Do you know what? Yeah. Let me read your messages again because 1 second. I didn't realize that there was other messages. I think I've missed a few WhatsApp messages recently. Give me a moment.